It was winter of 2011 in Gary, Indiana, a small, ordinary neighborhood where the houses looked quiet, familiar, and safe. Nothing about it suggested evil. Nothing about it suggested terror. But the family who moved into one small rented home on Carolina Street would discover that sometimes the most horrifying stories don't happen in haunted castles, or abandoned hospitals, or ancient graveyards. Sometimes they happen in places that look just like home. The family was LaToya Ammons, her 3 children, and her mother, Rosa. They moved in just before Christmas. Money was tight, and this little house seemed like a blessing, a fresh start. The walls were clean, the air smelled of new carpet, and for a moment they thought they'd finally found peace. But it didn't take long before they realized something was wrong. It started with flies. Not a few, not even dozens, hundreds of them. Black flies swarming against the windows, crawling on the walls, landing on lampshades. And the strangest part? It was the middle of winter. Temperatures were freezing outside. No reason for flies to breed in such numbers. LaToya's mother killed them with sprays and traps, and for a few hours the rooms would look clean, but by the next morning they'd be back, buzzing, crawling, watching. It was as if the house itself was bleeding pests. Then came the sounds, heavy footsteps at night, pacing across the hall when everyone was in bed, doors creaking open slowly, even when locked, a faint knock at the walls, like fingers drumming from the other side. At first, LaToya tried to ignore it. She told herself old houses make noises. She told her children it was nothing, but then objects began to move. A chair would scrape on its own. A small shadow would dart across the living room. Once, a boot print appeared across the floor overnight, wet, dirty, far too large for anyone in the house. And then the children began to change. Her daughter, normally bright and cheerful, began talking in low voices that didn't sound like her. One evening, LaToya walked into her room to hear her speaking in 2 tones at once, as if 2 people were speaking through her mouth. He whispered, "The Shadow Man. He says he's coming for us." The neighbors began to notice too. At night, they said the house made strange sounds. Sometimes screams carried into the street. A neighbor swore she saw figures in the windows when the family wasn't home. By now, LaToya was terrified. She tried everything. Cleansing rituals, praying, even burning sage. Nothing worked. The activity grew stronger. And then came the night when things crossed into the unthinkable. One evening, Rosa, the grandmother, walked into a bedroom and froze. She saw one of the boys standing in front of the closet, staring upward. Suddenly, he began to walk backwards, up the wall, his feet flat against the plaster, his body rigid. He climbed all the way to the ceiling, flipped over her head, and landed on the floor. Rosa screamed. She grabbed him and ran to the church the next morning. When LaToya tried to explain, people didn't believe her. But the children's school began reporting strange behavior. Teachers said the kids would scream without reason, growl at other students, and one time faint without explanation. Doctors were called in. The youngest boy was taken for evaluation, but even in the hospital, things grew worse. In front of nurses and staff, the boy's eyes rolled back into his head. His voice deepened into a growl. And then, in full view of trained medical professionals, he climbed backwards up the wall. Again, the staff screamed. Nurses refused to go back in the room. A report was filed, confirming that multiple witnesses saw the child do the impossible. By now, even the police were called. Officers visited the house and admitted the atmosphere inside felt wrong. The basement was damp and foul, the air thick. One officer's recorder picked up Father Michael Magina, a local priest, agreed to investigate. He visited the home and performed minor blessings, but as he prayed, lights flickered, the house groaned, and the shadows. This wasn't just a story told in hushed voices around a fire. This was written down in police files, hospital records, and official church documents. And so, the house on Carolina Street stands as one of the most chilling modern cases of possession in America. A story where shadows walked, children defied gravity, and an ordinary family was caught in the middle of something they could never explain. Think about that the next time you hear a creak in your hallway at night, or the next time you see a shadow in your mirror move when you don't. Sometimes, evil doesn't hide in ancient ruins or abandoned asylums. Sometimes, it lives in a house just like yours.